So seeing as we have a little bit of dead time before Witch Queen releases, I think it's time to go over some of the most important parts of this game. Subclasses. Most people will be familiar with the diamond chunks of abilities, or jumbled mess of fragments if you're cold, that lets us play the game differently. I'll be going over all of them and rating them on their PvE effectiveness in the most unbiased way possible. So let's start plain and simple. The shoulder cheeses. You get 3 flavors. You got blue, cheddar, and rind defect. All of them are kind of mediocre. They all rely on a melee you have to charge up and then expose yourself to hit an enemy with. Sure, they each have their gimmicks, but let's be honest, any subclass that relies on an exotic to make them decent is probably not great. They all get C tier. Wait. Alright, we're all good. Let's move on. Controverse Hold is a delicious subclass, and despite having a super that can potentially track the wrong target, it makes up for that by increasing the rate at which you throw grenades to 11. S tier. Dawnblade, on the other hand, is not quite a top tier super, but hey, it's pretty darn good. The more enemies you kill, the longer it lasts, and you get healing at demand anyway. Fortunately, you'll never know whether you're supposed to be in the air or on the ground. A tier. Sunbracers is a very fun class, used to be the king of movement, but, since the Icarus Dash nerf, less people seem to think it's a viable subclass. But, those people have obviously never drifted a kilometer in the air raining fire and ash on your enemies. Oh, it feels good. A tier. They say when everything looks like a nail, you're probably the hammer. And that's definitely the case for this subclass. You get a mini hammer that you get to throw every which way, deals ridiculous amounts of damage, and is probably the sole reason why the devs decided to nerf everything that has to do with it, while simultaneously buffing it. It's great though, it's A tier. The roly-polies. The hunter version of hammers. Because why hit anything with a weapon when you can do it with your fists? It's dedicated to punching often and punching hard. Just gotta have a shotgun. That's literally it. B tier. Uno Reverse. This thing might be pretty fun in PvP when you get to deflect back supers and stuff, but in PvE it's far more niche, and you really get to pull off anything with it. D tier. Now for anyone who likes to have a power fantasy and feel like a ninja in the game, the closest class you'll ever get to it is Spectral Blades. It's all about precision and stalking. It's a fun gameplay loop that unfortunately has almost no practical application. D tier. Speaking of roleplay, Star Wars fans have their own version in the certain Arc Warlock, which unfortunately is based around a lackluster ability that deals hardly more damage than an SMG at 70 meters. At least the saber can kill things. C tier. Laser. The big brother of Old Stormchance, with a super that is actually good at killing high health targets. But the most important thing about the subclass is you get built-in Willspring and the ability to get to cover before dying. B tier. Our Taser. The entire point of this class is to get a little buddy, and give everyone else friends too, because we could all use someone to stick close by. The only problem is that these little stinkers are the most inaccurate things possible, always shooting the wrong thing and wiping the team during fuse phase on security. D tier. No, I'm not salty. There are plenty of unexplainable phenomena in the universe, but one that I will never understand is that despite somehow dealing less damage than our good old buddy Arc Soul, our tiny turret is still more effective than its older brother. Guess we all have a lot to learn. A tier. Lances. I feel the same way about this class as I do as hiking up a hill. It sucked during the entire trip to where we are, but the view at the top is pretty good. You get to chain freezes, you get to chuck sticks, and with the changes to crystal damage, you now have a super that can deal a reasonable amount of damage. B tier. Stasis and Squall is another fun class for one reason alone. You get the best crowd control nade in the game, and you get to do it on repeat with a 20-second cooldown. 100 discipline for life. A tier. Well. This class sucks. Most of the time when you're playing this class, you will be chasing down your teammates, trying to get them to stay in a rift so you actually get to play some sort of subclass. The super is just a worse version of other team buffs, and, well, last for less time anyway. But given the fact that it's the sole reason that approximately 98.4% of players who finish any raid actually get a clear, I guess you have to give it its own tier. Grudge tier. Tether's a pretty good subclass. It's crowd control, it lets your entire team deal more damage to raid bosses, and it even has survivability to boot. It's pretty decent, even if your melee kinda sucks, but still, it deserves its A tier. Omnioculus, on the other hand, is absolute perfection. It took an already pretty good team support subclass and gave it effectively a catalyst, making it so that all your abilities flow together perfectly, and grenades fly everywhere. S tier. Who knew all it would have taken is a second smoke bomb? Nom 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 nom. If you want to survive, this is probably the class for you. Casually gaining all of your health after every kill is a stinking powerful effect. It makes me wonder why the class hasn't been nerfed yet. Then I just remember that Super is only worth its weight in special ammo. A tier. Dark Matter? That's an S tier. Nova Warp? D tier. Sunspots is an excellent class, giving health off ability kills and making your poor excuse for a zoning grenade an actual zoning effect. And while we're at it, why not make everyone regen their grenades faster? A tier. The Crash is a special class for special people. These are the kind of people who are so bad at doing damage that they have to rely on a super that will take most of the damage phase to use in order to not have the least damage when the team inevitably wipes. A tier. If you want to talk DPS supers, then just you wait. This class boasts the highest damage per second super, and will still manage to have respectable weapon damage to boot. It also has a passive game with knife throwing, making it useful even when your super is on cooldown. S tier. Bottom tier striker is... it has passive game that doesn't apply to PvE? C tier. The knife trick? D tier. Knife tricks? C tier. La Detonatas is a satisfying subclass that features explosions, and a shield big enough to actually call it a shield. A tier. And finally, the big daddy of all classes, the support class that everyone wants on their team, yet no one ever wants to play. This class allows you to take the puny damage numbers everyone else is putting up and claim most of their damage as your own. You have an impenetrable orb of safety that can and will spell death for all those who enter. Double S tier. And that's it. All of Destiny 2's subclasses ranked. Just know that even though this list is absolutely perfect, you can still use what you feel like if you want to. Even I occasionally get the urge to sit back, relax, and shoulder charge off a cliff.